These modern, mythical, magical titans emerged from 20th century comic books, but they're descended from ancient heroes, Hercules and Odysseus, the Nordic Thor, the Babylonian Gilgamesh. Why do they endure?
I've been reading superhero comics since I was 10 years old, which is 1973.
Jim Higgins is a writer and editor of comics, and for nearly 2 decades he's taught students the art of creating them, most recently at the University of California, Los Angeles.
My childhood was not all roses and joyful, and I think that there was an idea that superheroes were both powerful and had control over their situations more than the average person because of their powers. And I think that, for me, it struck a moral chord in me, I have to admit. That, I know that sounds like very altruistic or idealistic, but it did. And I honestly know quite a lot of people who grew up reading superhero comics who talk about that sense of morality as something that really spoke to them and still does. This idea of, choosing the right path. Superman was created by 2 young Jewish guys. The Siegel and Schuster were Jewish, and their immigrant experience, or the immigrant experience of their families, was similar to a lot of immigrant groups in the early 20th century. There's been a couple of interesting books written on the sort of Jewish cultural influence of the creation of Superman, but it's also that immigrant experience is something that we had a wave of Polish immigration, a lot of Eastern European immigration, Italians. And so that was common across there, the idea that you come to a new land to be remade. And let's remember, Superman came from Krypton and found a new world.
Superman was developed during the 1930s, and in 1938, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster sold all the rights to the character to Detective Comics for $130. Superman was born, and a year later, the same company ran the first ever Batman story.
People were begging on the street and couldn't find work and housing and all that because it was the economic depression of the 1930s, which was severe.
Nina Nazionale from the New York Historical Society.
People are definitely looking for inspiration. I mean, if you look at popular culture in the United States during the Depression, you'll see movies that were rather lighthearted, screwball comedies, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Well, if Madge doesn't care, I certainly don't.
Neither do I. All I know is that it's heaven. I'm in heaven. And my heart beats so that I can hardly speak.
Really things to help people escape. And I think comic books really came in at a time when not only did they allow people to go somewhere else in their imaginations, but they also gave them hope because they're very inspiring stories. Everybody wants to help other people and also take care of themselves, and to have extra powers to do that is a really wonderful wish fulfillment.
You're looking for both issues, right? Number 2. Number 2, yeah. Cool.
This is Gosh Comics in central London, and it's down in the basement that you'll find the hardcore aficionados. It's a Wednesday, the day that new editions go on sale. Men from late teens to, I guess, late 50s are browsing, and from time to time, a woman or a girl will come down the creaking wooden stairs.
When I started collecting comics, a huge part of it was the treasure hunt, was trying to find back issues.
Stephen Walsh is one of the booksellers here, and he's an avid fan too.
You pick up a random issue off the shelf, like a series, and if you wanted to read the earlier issues in that series, you couldn't go online to read it digitally, you couldn't go online to find the issues in a bundle. It was a case of going to various places, hoping to find a run, but there's always going to be one that's going to elude you for a while. But then the actual satisfaction in finding that issue was great.
What is the appeal, do you think, of these comic book superheroes?
I think in terms of superheroes, the appeal is the fact that we've always, as humans, had sort of myths and stories and fairy tales and folk tales. We've always been fascinated by things that are bigger than us and can explain the world in a different way. And, as I say, historically that was mythology, and the gods would explain natural phenomena. And I think with superheroes, it's essentially, at the heart of it, it's morality's house. It's exploring good and evil and the blurring of those two things, and the ways that we deal with those things, and looking at social justice and human justice in a way that's sort of larger than life and colourful, but at the heart of it is essentially about right and wrong.
Captain America is born